I'm Sarah Scalese, Vice President for Communications. I'd like to begin by acknowledging, with respect, the Onondaga Nation, firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee, the indigenous people on whose ancestral land Syracuse University now stands. Today, we are celebrating the arrival of the newest member and newest family of our Orange community. To get things started, I am pleased to invite University trustee and alumnus Steve Ballentine to the podium. Steve is the chair of the Board of Trustees Athletic Committee, a member of the Board Executive Committee, and served as chair of the search committee charged with identifying the university's next director of athletics. Steve?
Thanks, Sarah. Good morning and welcome to our trustees, our coaches, student athletes, students, alumni, campus community, and fans everywhere across Orange Nation. Whether present here today or on the live stream, welcome to this great day for Syracuse University. Our committee, with the outstanding assistance of the team at CSA Search, conducted a comprehensive national search, and we targeted the very best. As chair of the committee, I want to say how proud we are of the way this process was conducted, the depth of our engagement with stakeholders, the breadth of our candidate pool, and the ultimate outcome, Chancellor-elect Mike Haynie's selection of Bryan Blair as our next director of athletics. This search happened under unique circumstances in the midst of the chancellor transition here at Syracuse and at a critical inflection point in college athletics. In an ideal world, this search would have happened months from now, after a chancellor-elect had been selected and officially taken over as chancellor. They would have then had the opportunity to start their own search for the next AD. However, given the pace of change in college athletics today, Chancellor Syverud and the Board of Trustees leadership realized Syracuse did not have the time for a search to play out in that traditional way. After careful consideration of the various options, a plan was adopted to run this AD search in parallel with the chancellor search. The candidates of both searches were assured that they would have an opportunity to meet and be certain that they were aligned before any final decisions were made. Through coordination with the Chancellor Search Committee, along with the tireless efforts of many within the university's leadership team, we were able to develop a highly qualified finalist pool, any one of whom was an excellent candidate for the position, to present to Chancellor-elect Mike Haynie immediately upon his election. He then dove in headfirst and was able to get to know the finalists and ultimately make his selection. Leading Syracuse athletics is an opportunity that many people sought. The breadth of candidates we were able to attract was particularly gratifying. We had candidates who were leaders in professional sports, executives who bring a sophisticated business lens to the rapidly changing economics of college athletics. We had experienced athletic directors with years of proven success, and we had a new generation of leaders who have navigated the realities of NIL, the transfer portal, and revenue sharing, and who understand the landscape of college sports is being rewritten in real time. I can tell you that many of them would have done a fine job leading Syracuse athletics. But in Bryan Blair, Chancellor-elect Haynie has chosen extremely well, making this an extraordinary moment for Syracuse athletics, Syracuse University, and Orange Nation. I want to take a moment to thank the members of the search committee, many of whom are here today. I'm grateful to each of them for their time, their candor, their commitment, and the care they brought to every step of this process. I am honored to have worked alongside them for a search of this importance. Let me recognize them by name. They are John Lally, student athlete alumnus and university trustee; Ian McIntyre, our national championship men's soccer coach; Roxy Nurse McNabb, student athlete alumna and university trustee; Gabe Nugent, senior VP and general counsel; Sarah Scalese, vice president for communications; and Mike Tirico, a vice chair of the Board of Trustees. And I also want to recognize Mary Opperman, university secretary, whose support was invaluable throughout. An important part of what made this process successful was the time we spent listening. We began by gathering input from the entire cross-section of stakeholders: students, student athletes, coaches, staff, faculty, trustees, advisory board members, donors, and fans. We asked them for the qualities that we should seek in our next athletic director. Through a public survey, we received over 300 thoughtful and passionate responses, and 9 Zoom listening sessions and dozens of one-on-one calls. We had intensive conversations about what people wanted to see in our next director of athletics. The message we received was loud and clear: a financially sophisticated AD built for the modern NIL revenue-sharing era, who can restore flagship competitiveness with proven fundraising expertise, new revenue generation and financial management skills, the ability to hire and retain elite coaches, to energize the passionate Orange Nation fan base, and a leader who cares deeply about our student athletes and their academic success. Doing these things, all while leading with integrity and safeguarding our educational mission and our values. An experienced executive who understands the speed, scrutiny, and realities of today and can run a best-in-class athletic department with a championship culture and position us for success at the top tier of Division I athletics. Bryan Blair is that leader. The official search committee may have been the 7 people I named, but make no mistake that each and every one of you were in those meetings with us. Through your advice and your counsel we received from the survey, those listening sessions, and those one-on-one calls. Your board of trustees, every member of whom is as dedicated and bleeds orange as much as our most passionate fan, is committed to Syracuse University athletic success. And as Chancellor-elect Mike Haynie, who said at his introductory event held just last week, it matters that we are a premier athletic brand and a nationally competitive athletic program, not just because it's a fun thing to have at the institution, it's a part of our strategy. So now, on behalf of the Search Committee and the Syracuse University Board of Trustees, it is my great pleasure to introduce Chancellor-elect Mike Haynie. Thank you, and go Orange.
Well, good morning, everyone. It seems very fitting that we're gathered here in Myron Victory Court because of that name, that word victory. This feels to me like a victory. It is certainly an exciting day for Syracuse University and Syracuse University athletics. And as Steve said, we are here to launch a new era of Syracuse University athletics. And I could not be more energized and excited to mark this moment with all of you. We're here to welcome Bryan, but not just Bryan, but Bryan's family, Bryan's wife Jenna, their children Brielle and Bo, as the newest members of the Syracuse Orange family. And before I say a word or two about Bryan, I think it's important that I extend some gratitude as well. First, I want to acknowledge someone who's not here with us today, but very much wanted to be. John Wildhack is in Tampa for the NCAA tournament as part of his service as a member of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Selection Committee. That fact tells you everything you need to know about John Wildhack. Even in the final stretches of his remarkable career here at Syracuse, he's out there both serving his profession and representing Syracuse University. John has, for me, been a decade-long friend and a colleague and someone I admire greatly. He loves this university deeply, and he's done so much to make us better across everything that we do at the institution. So I wanted to be sure to acknowledge and send gratitude to John. Second, I want to thank the Athletic Director Search Committee. This group moved with urgency and with great care, and they delivered. Thank you, Steve Ballentine, who led that effort with the same energy and commitment that Steve brings to everything he does for Syracuse University. And I'm deeply grateful to Steve and to the committee for their hard work. Next, I want to say something about what this moment means for Syracuse University. As a newly appointed chancellor, make no mistake, I understood the gravity of the choice I had to make because so many of you reminded me on a daily basis. You reminded me at the gas station and at Wegmans and at Home Depot and even sitting in the waiting room of my dentist. You reminded me. A lot of people had a lot of opinions, and I mean that very respectfully. I listened, I learned, and I'm grateful for the many, many conversations that shaped this process. Those conversations reminded me that both who and how we hire our next athletic director would actually send a signal about how I lead and what I value and what I expect. And at the same time, I very much knew what I was looking for in this process. I've spent 20 years of my academic life studying entrepreneurs and transformative leaders, and What I mean by that is the kind of leaders who intuitively understand that a path littered with the footprints of others will very predictably lead to nowhere new and to nothing extraordinary. And I'm convinced that only those that understand that particular truth will be able to successfully navigate what's ahead for college athletics. So what was I looking for in Syracuse University's next athletic director? I was looking for somebody who looks at the sky and doesn't see the ceiling. Somebody who, in the face of what will be a million daily reminders of all that might go wrong, someone who will not allow Syracuse University athletics to be a chapter in someone else's book, but who will lead us to author a uniquely orange story. I wanted somebody willing and equipped to commit to be the architect of something different and something better and something brave. That's because Syracuse University in this moment does not need an AD who will manage for the moment. We need an athletic director who will shape the moment and candidly bend that moment to our will. And that's who Bryan Blair is. Bryan's leadership has been forged in an era almost entirely consistent with the challenges that we face today. He's never really known a world without NIL or the transfer portal or revenue sharing. At Toledo, he built one of the most sophisticated NIL ecosystems in the Mid-Atlantic Conference. At Toledo, he increased fundraising by 282%, including securing the second largest gift in school history. He activated underutilized facilities into revenue-generating assets and implemented a department-wide data and analytics initiative all powered by AI. Simply put, for his entire career, Bryan's been building what comes next before most of his peers realized what was happening now. And Bryan Blair wins. Under his leadership, Toledo earned 3 consecutive MAC Cartwright Awards as the conference best overall athletic program. He delivered 16 conference championships in less than 4 years, more than in the previous decade combined. From 2022 to 2024, Toledo led the nation in combined conference wins across football, men's basketball, and women's basketball. And in a single year, they became the first program in school history to win both the MAC top men's and women's program honors. That is not a coincidence. That is a culture. That is leadership. What also set Bryan apart for me, and I want to be clear about this, is his commitment to the academic mission. He is a former Division I student football athlete. He holds a law degree. At Toledo, his student athletes achieved 11 consecutive semesters with a GPA over 3.3, and something that I had never encountered before in my career. At Toledo, Bryan, as athletic director, was asked to co-chair the university's search for its next executive vice president and provost, a role that I think is really unheard of and unprecedented in the context of competitive college athletics. In 2024, Bryan was named to the Sports Business Journal 40 Under 40, one of the most prestigious honors in the industry. That list of past honorees includes leaders like Adam Silver, Kevin Plank, Brent Yormark. That is good company that Bryan Blair keeps. He is a leader who understands that winning matters, innovation matters, revenue matters, the student-athlete experience matters, and none of those things need to be in conflict. They're all part of the same mission. And finally, that brings me to why Syracuse University athletics matters. This is about more than wins or losses, though winning does matter, and we intend to do a lot of it, because I'll hear about that in Wegmans too. Syracuse University athletics is central to our academic mission and our student experience mission. The orange spirit runs very, very deep. It creates memories for our students that last for decades and generations. It builds bonds that span generations and geographies. And that impact spans beyond our campus. It's not lost on me and many others that we are in the midst of really what is a remarkable economic renaissance here in Central New York. And Syracuse University and Syracuse Athletics has an important role to play in that economic renaissance. Economically, culturally, as a source of civic pride, what happens in this program reaches beyond our campus. I recently attended the women's basketball NCAA watch party over at Destiny, and the energy in that room from our community was electric. And what Coach Jack has built is extraordinary, and she does exemplify what it means to lead with both excellence and with empathy. And she, all of our coaches, all of our student athletes deserve the full support of both the university but also the Central New York community. And I know that Bryan will rally that support. I know he will bring energy and creativity and professionalism and character to every corner of this program. So we are stepping into a new era for Syracuse University Athletics. We're doing it with the right leader at the helm. So please join me in welcoming Syracuse University's 12th Director of Athletics, Bryan Blair. I don't know where we're supposed to look, but I think out there. It's all you.
Good morning. How we doing? Good. I am so excited to be with you all today. So my wife told me before I got up here, she said, hey, don't try to be funny, don't try to be smart, just be yourself, right? So we're going to focus on being myself today and doing this. Before I get going, Coach Jack, good luck to you and the ladies on the road at Iowa State. Absolutely. So I want to take some time to introduce myself formally. Certainly there's the resume and the bio, but I want to let you know a little bit about who I am. But first I want to start with a handful of thank yous. Starts certainly with Chancellor Haynie. You start this AD search, right? You don't have a chancellor, right? So you get the call and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, who's my boss going to be? Who's making the decision? What's that going to look like? And then the search firm says, hey, I think they got it under control. I think they've got it really incredibly mapped out in terms of the cadence and how this is going to play out. Just trust the process. And so I said, okay, we'll start the conversations to see where we end up. And then I saw the news break about Chancellor Haynie. And what caught my eye was his history of innovation and bringing things together that didn't exist before he saw them, right? And it takes a special leader to have a vision, cast that vision, see something before other people see it, and then rally people to make it possible. So as I stepped in the Veteran Affairs office today and saw how that came together out of the ground due to your work and then just your spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship, that's inspiring for me. That's the kind of leadership you want to be around to try to, because we need to think outside the box. And so I'm so incredibly appreciative of your leadership. To Steve Ballentine in our search committee, you guys ran a flawless process. I think you step in that room and you look around the table. I'll tell you a story. I won't tell you where I was at, but I was in a room. I was sitting at the end of the table and I'm talking, and midway through my answer, I look to my left and I see Mike Tirico. And it snapped on me like, this is Mike Tirico. He was just at the Olympics, just at the Super Bowl. And here's one of our alumni sitting next to me, asking me about what it's going to be like to be the next AD at Syracuse University. And so that committee was incredibly impressive, incredibly organized, but incredibly talented. And it spoke to the power and the quality of individuals associated with this university. I'd like to thank Toledo. Dr. Gregory Postal gave me my first shot to be an AD. And certainly I've had other presidents since then, but that's a special, special place. And I know many of them texted me that they're watching. I've got over 700 unread texts and calls, so I promise you I'm gonna get back on top of that someday. But Northwest Ohio became home really quickly. That department rallied around my wife, my kids, and I, and took us in unlike anything I've ever seen before. And as a first-time AD, learning things, making mistakes, figuring it out, they gave me patience and trust to lean in and try to make that thing special. I'm so incredibly proud and appreciative of all my family and friends back at Toledo. I've got way too many mentors and colleagues to name, and that's how you usually get in trouble, because I drop one name and then I forget somebody and then I get an angry text on the back end. So we're not gonna do that. You know who you are. I appreciate all you do. But I will celebrate too. My mom and dad, Danny Blair and Woodrow Blair from, oh boy. Come on, man. So I'm from little old Bennettsville, South Carolina. And my mom was my middle school principal. My dad was an entrepreneur for a number of businesses. And those are the two hardest working people I've ever seen in my life. And I learned that there is no way but hard work. You cannot escape the work, right? You've got to put in the time, you've got to put in the effort. And even when it gets hard, you work harder. You run harder at it. You bounce back, you swing when your back's up against the wall, and you come out and you take what's yours. And those two people, for so many reasons, taught that to me. My mom was always big from an educational standpoint. You've got to have all A's to play football, right? I later got to bend to A's and B's, but you've got to have good grades to be able to football. I never would have made it to law school had my mom not been on me about my academics early on and holding me tight to that. And then watching my dad struggle and succeed multiple times and get knocked down and continue to pick himself back up and never feel sorry for himself. Never cry, woe is me, or wonder why am I facing this. He just picked himself back up, and he led an example for me and my brother to follow for years to come. So when I talk about my mentors, I want to highlight those two because that's me at my core. I'm a mom's son, I'm a dad's son, Danny and Woodrow Blair. They made me, and I think that's what shapes me for this moment. I want to thank William and Brielle. So those two with the headsets on, because guys, we're trying to keep them quiet and in place. we're holding on by Band-Aids between the flights and the late nights and everything else. But Brielle, 7, will be 8 this summer, and then William Bowe will be, he just turned 5 in February. But they're my everything. They're my inspiration. You'll see them around all the time. I believe in blending family with work and bringing them around. So I want to empower our staff and our team to not have to leave that whole side of you at home. It's critically important we come together and you bring your whole self to the office. Lastly, I want to thank my wife, Jenna. She's my ride or die. And she never asks really the why or what we need to do. It's always, well, let's get to work. You got this, right? Before I leave the house for one of my conversations with the chancellor, she said, you got this. Go show him who Syracuse's AD is going to be, right? That person that speaks that power and that vision into you. For you to make it possible, because you'd love to say, well, all the time you're bulletproof and nothing bothers you. But all of us have those days. All of us need that support. All of us need that inspiration. And to have that inspiration at home, I very much appreciate you. I love you, man. Thank you. Lastly, I want to thank the passionate alumni and supporters of Syracuse. Passionate is putting it lightly, right? And I think there was a moment in the search where I think a tweet went out, and it was celebrating attendance at basketball. And it was 20, 25, whatever it was. And then I don't usually check comments, but for whatever reason that day I looked into the comments, and the fan base was livid that it was 20,000 people because they felt like it should have been 30, and it's 30 on a bad Tuesday night against so-and-so and so. And I found that fascinating but also exciting, because who else in the world can say they're disappointed by that kind of crowd? But who else in the world knows their true ceiling, their true North Star is much, much higher, and they want to get back to that, right? That passion, that energy, that conviction, certainly we got to channel it in the right ways. We got to channel it to bring us together, not separate us. But golly, if we get that thing united, what can we accomplish together? That's why I'm here. That's what excited me. So you'd say, well, who are you, right? You thanked all these people, but who are you? I talked about my family. I live by 5 core values: family, passion, integrity, curiosity, servanthood. Right? I talked about my family. They mean the world to me. Passion, right? I match the passion, the energy of this fan base of our alumni, our supporters. What spoke to me through this process is how much conviction everybody on that search committee talked about their experience with Syracuse University and Syracuse athletics. I've never seen or heard anything like it to a person spoke to the power of what this energy means to you and why this is an important hire and why we've got to get this right. And I'm biased, I think he did get it right, but we won't go there. Integrity, what does that mean to me? It means we're going to do things in a way that always make this university proud. I'm never going to do something that Bo or Bree have to read in the newspaper that their daddy embarrassed them. That's how I make that word real to me. Everybody throws around the word integrity. I think you've got to make it real to yourself. That's how I make it real to me when I look those two in the eye, to make sure the example I'm setting and the behaviors I'm doing, make sure they never look back and say, golly, I don't want that last name right now because it's not any good. And so we're going to continue to hold ourselves accountable to that. Curiosity. We're always going to have a growth mindset. I always have a growth mindset. Everything we do can get better, it can be challenged, it can be thought of differently. And I would argue now in college athletics, with the sea of change we're facing, now's the time to lead from the front and think outside the box in terms of what this should look like. And certainly there's templates out there for a lot of different sports organizations and the like, but nothing that is an easy silver bullet for Syracuse athletics, because this place is unique, right? It's gonna take a unique solution, unique collaboration, unique energy to pull this thing together to do what we collectively want to do and really leverage those unique assets. And then lastly, servanthood. I made the joke with the department earlier, like I'm the fullback of the athletic department, right? What's the fullback? Some of the people we didn't know, well, it's the short, stocky guy in front of the run back that's making sure the running back doesn't have to take on that linebacker so they can score the touchdown, right? They're empowering somebody else's success. They're doing the dirty work to clear the way, right? So Fran, you got a fullback now. Right? I want you to score those touchdowns. I got your back, right? And so that's how I think about myself and our work as administrators, because we want a student-athlete-centered department, right? The student-athlete's always going to be at the core of what we do. Then we want it coach-elevated, right? Our coaches sit in the home of those young people and talk to them about coming to Syracuse University. Our coaches are who they call when life gets rough. Our coaches shape so much of that experience, and then our administrators need to support our coaches in their endeavors to allow them to be the best version of themselves. But if we keep that North Star of the student athlete with all the business intangibles and commercialization that we will do and we have to do, we'll be really, really successful, but we'll also produce future leaders of this country here from Syracuse University. So you'd say, well, why Syracuse, right? You talked about Bennettsville, South Carolina, Toledo, Ohio, you lived out west in Washington. Well, why does this make sense for you? I think what I loved about this place is not so much what you have been, but what you can be. What excited me was seeing a place. I was a history major in college. I believe history has a way of replicating itself over time. Seeing the heights that this university's had over time, seeing the constant brand and how it speaks to the entire country, that everybody knows when they see that Block S, it means something special. And it always takes them back in time to think about memories, right? So how do we harness that history, that excellence, along with all the other intangibles that we have? So that's my vision, right? We want to wake this sleeping beast. We want to wake this thing up and take control of our destiny and make sure the world knows that Syracuse University is one of the top 10 brands in all of college athletics, and we're here to stay. So, well, what does that mean, Brian? How do you flesh that out? I think it's one win, right? I mean, Chancellor Haynie talked about it. We don't get participation trophies in this thing. We keep score for a reason. I understand that. We've got to win, and we've got to win a lot. And I understand the pressure that comes with that. I signed up for it. I'm good with it. I also like winning a lot, and I hate losing. So we're crystal clear on that front. And particularly, we need to win at all of our sports. We've got certain sports that drive from a revenue standpoint and a brand standpoint. They do things in a different way. And we've got to continue to lean into those to feed our entire ecosystem, right? And make sure we're set up for what the future may hold. And so we're going to really lean in to what that looks like. We've got to modernize our enterprise. And this isn't a shot at any of the work here, but more of an overall comment on college athletics. We've got a lot of places that are stuck in what was. And you look up and down the org chart or the way they do things, it's a lot of how we got here is just blending and morphing versus starting fresh and saying this is the model for 2026 and beyond. And so we're going to really lean into that modernization. And frankly, we're going to attack revenue generation, and we're going to attack NIL. NIL is one of the most, if not the most important aspects of what we do. If we don't have talented student athletes and we can't win and be competitive, we can't drive the commercial enterprise to feed this entire ecosystem. We've got to be crystal clear on that. This is not a will I'll do it or maybe I'll do it. It's that we have to do it for our survival and our ability to thrive going forward, right? So we want to make sure we modernize that enterprise. We're going to leverage our academics in our region, right? I feel like everybody I bump into, I feel like you're a spokesperson for Micron. Everybody talks about it. Everybody's loving it and excited and here to tell me what it's going to mean for the region. And I'm so excited about what that means. And that came up frequently in our conversations. But also, as I look at our academics, right, you've got Newhouse and the quality of alumni from there that shape the narrative and the voice, frankly, of all of sport, right? We talked about Mike in the Olympics, but all of sport is shaped by Syracuse athletics, or Syracuse University, sorry. Think about the Falk College. Jeremy, I see you there. What we do in there is different than anywhere in the country, right? So we've got an asset, unlike anybody else, that can be our competitive advantage. I believe a competitive advantage is something that somebody can't easily emulate or copy that sets you apart. We've got those things at Syracuse. And lastly, I want to weaponize the dome. We've got one venue. Most places have a football stadium and a basketball arena and a lacrosse stadium they have to invest in. We've got one. right? We've got one where we can build a unique, immersive experience that's unlike anything you see in this country, maybe outside of Vegas, right? So we're gonna think outside the box on what that experience looks like. How do we create that home court advantage, home field advantage for all of our teams? And how do we bring something that makes our student experience here incredible? They say, all the things I did at Syracuse University were great, but golly, you remember that time we did X inside the dome. You remember that time where I met my future spouse. You remember that time where we high-fived after that memory and celebrated together, right? That thing is unique, right? I just got my first glimpse walking inside with Chancellor Haynie, and he probably saw my jaw go slack jaw because there's nothing like it in the country, right? And things like that allow us to really leverage those unique aspects. So in closing, one, I just want to say thank you for being here today. I walked up and saw the packed room. I said, oh man, they must think we're announcing a basketball coach today, right? You guys are packed out, standing here, looking good, and so I appreciate you being here. Higher education and college athletics is changing more than ever before. We talk a lot about athletics. Higher education is changing, society's changing, right? I mean, some of the things that are happening, whether it be AI or economy or otherwise, like there's a lot of rapid pace of change happening right now. The good thing is there's opportunity amid that change, right? If you don't have that change, things tend to stay static where they're at, but when you've got that change, you get to lean into that change and really shape your future and build on that change to accelerate your path forward. And so I talked to the staff this morning. It was really important to me to speak to them first because I want them to hear this introduction for their new leader first, because I understand the transition and the anxiety that can come with that, and I tried to be myself and make sure they understand who I am first and foremost. But as we talk about it, a lot of it was about this concept of teamwork. And teamwork sounds like one of the easiest things in the book to do, right? Like everybody says it, teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. There's books, there's quotes. I won't bore you with all those. But teamwork's really, really hard, right? Because teamwork requires some sacrifice for the greater we over the me.